Evening, and we're done with 11 games tonight. There's 12 tomorrow. I do not have to do a preview tonight. I have to do the boards up for tonight. But the preview can wait till the morning because there's no matinee games. So I'm grateful for that. There are matinee games on Sunday, which means I have to do the Sunday preview Saturday night after the review, which follows and then the power rankings, and then yeah. So it's gonna be a busy night Saturday night, but for tonight, not too bad. I'm pretty happy about that. So let's talk about something else that I am relatively happy about. The Boston Bruins played a good game, and if anybody's wondering, this is last year's practice jersey. I ordered this through Sports K. It came in. It came in a while ago, but Yvonne went down to the American Post Office and picked it up. So if you're wondering what this is the practice jersey from last year's Winter Classic. So, yeah, it's really nice. And the gold is that the camera's not doing it justice. It's absolutely fantastic. So the Boston Bruins tonight went into Buffalo, and yeah, it managed to work. Oh, and the hat's brand new as well. The Sabres get the first power play of the game. Ullmark also shortly thereafter robbed Marchand. There was a late Halak stop on Skinner. So pretty back and forth period. But honestly, I thought the Sabres were the better team throughout most of the first period. And then there was a last minute power play. And during that last minute power play, Bergeron scores a power play goal from Pastrnak and Marchand at 1938. That's tough. It's tough when you at home have a pretty good game wearing your beautiful jerseys with the gold trim. And those Buffalo jerseys are fantastic. So I was like, all right, so even if Boston loses tonight, I got to wear that beautiful gold trim jersey they're wearing tonight. But sadly, for Buffalo fans, that's not what happened, and it starts with the Bergeron goal. Second period, Bergeron hit a post. The shots were 8-2 for Boston at 7.5 minutes. And it really felt like that middle period was basically Boston's control. The Bruins got a power play around the 15-minute mark. They wouldn't score on it. However, shortly thereafter, Bergeron scores the second from Marchand and Pastrnak at 18:26. So that makes it 2-0 for Boston. That's another late goal. And Buffalo just felt out of sync tonight. I don't know what it was. They just felt out of sync. Third period, Skinner exited at around 4:09. He took a hit. The Bruins got a power play, and then they ended up with another. But it was a strong third overall for the Sabres. Halak was just fantastic in this one. They pulled the goalie with 2.5 minutes left, which led to Carlo getting an empty netter from Coyle and Marchand at 18:06. So Marchand with 3 assists tonight. Boston wins this one 3-0. Bergeron with a couple of goals. It's kind of a perfect game. The one thing that surprised me was before Carlo gets the empty netter, Bergeron, it looked like, had a pretty good chance at the empty net and passed it off to Coyle, which I thought was strange. I thought, why aren't you taking the hat trick? Why'd you pass it off? But I guess Bergeron doesn't really care that much about himself. He goes, Coyle needs the goal more than I do. I admire that. That's why he's got a letter on his chest. Now, Halak, 26 saves for the shutout. Ullmark saved 22 out of 24. Your 3 stars are Bergeron, Halak, and Pastrnak. Power plays, 1 for 4 for Boston, 0 for 2 for Buffalo. And so Buffalo takes the loss tonight, and with the mix of results that we've seen, they fell out of a playoff spot today as well. And at least now they've got multiple teams they have to jump over. And again, we're still early, but it is something I'll keep track of daily. 11-8 were the shots in the first in favor of Buffalo, 12-5 in the second in favor of Boston, 10-5 in the third in favor of Buffalo. Final shots 26-25 in favor of the Sabres. So there are some good things out of this game if you're a Sabres fan, but the lack of scoring, and Skinner, this was game 700 for him, and he was clearly frustrated with some plays, and then he exits the game, and hopefully he's okay and it's not a big deal, but again, rough night for the Sabres in general. Next up, Toronto. You know, this game, it played out sort of like a trap game, like one of those games that it's easy to overlook on the schedule. For New Jersey, if you're a fan right now, you have to feel like New Jersey's pulling out of this. They're starting to get it going. And not only that, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Subban's not on the board, but he had a decent game tonight. I thought he played well. I thought there were plays where he didn't end up getting an assist, but I thought he passed the puck relatively well. So things seem to be looking up for Jersey, even though this result doesn't go their way tonight. Hischier scores from Bratt and Palmieri at 4:33, so they get the early jump on this. However, there was a double minor on the Devils with 6 minutes left, And as great as Blackwood was playing, and as much as it looked like he was going to hold the Leafs off, he couldn't hold them off for the entire 4 minutes. Zach Hyman scores from Riley and Spets at 16:56. So it's 1-1, and then 19 seconds after that, Mikheyev scores from Tavares and Nylander, so at 17:15, it's 2-1, and the Leafs were really in control. Even before the Hyman goal, it was pretty heavily in favor of Toronto. It was just the Devils were hanging on because Blackwood was playing really well. Second period, the Devils got an early 5-on-3 for 1 minute and 55 seconds. During said 5-on-3, Gusev would score his first goal in 18 games. So maybe that'll get him going. Hischier and Vatanen get assists on that at 1 minute and 42 seconds. But the rest of the power play does get killed off. And then Kapanen scores from Kerfoot and Tavares. So it's 3-2 in favor of Toronto at 5:16. But not long after that, Palmieri answers from Hischier and Bratt at 7:01. Bratt would score then at 10:11 from Palmieri. So Bratt and Palmieri both had pretty darn good games. And in terms of the Devils, they're ahead 4-3 going into the third period. It's kind of bizarre. And I was looking at this and I kept thinking, if Hutchinson loses this game, and if he allows 5+ goals, what does Dubas do? Because you know that Hutchinson's on a short leash. He's already been waived once. There's already been one situation where the Leafs went, we can lose him for nothing. It's fine. So Hutchinson manages to come out tonight with the result. Third period, Tavares scores on a power play from Nylander and Matthews at 8:15. So Toronto, their power play did come through tonight. Mikheyev then got cut. There was actually a trail of blood on the ice. He got his hand sliced by his wrist, I should say, sliced by a skate from Bratt. Obviously not intentional, but scary. So he goes off without his glove, and it's one of those ones where it's like, why don't they blow the play dead immediately? Did they not see it? Because that's one of those scary injuries. Anyways, the trainer said he'll be fine when asked, but it's one of those things. I don't know if he's going to miss any time or not. We'll see. But wrist cut by a skate, that's not something you ever want to hear. And with the blood leading you off the ice. 4-on-4 hockey then with 1 minute and 23 seconds left, just to keep things exciting. And then it was a 4-on-3 for the Leafs with 28.8 seconds left. So, the Leafs then took a timeout. Like, all right, we're going to plan this. Whatever they planned didn't work. So we go to overtime. The power play expires. They don't score on it. However, William Nylander scores at 3 minutes and 38 seconds, and that caps off a huge win for Hutchinson. Hutchinson desperately needed that win. He saves 24 out of 28 in the win, so it's not like he had a fantastic statistical game, but he gets the victory. Blackwood, 32 saves on 37 shots. Nylander, Palmieri, and Bratt are your 3 stars. 2 for 4 on the power play for Toronto, 1 for 3 for New Jersey. Shots 19-9 in favor of Toronto in the first, 14-9 in favor of New Jersey in the second. Both teams had 5 shots in the third. Once it was tied, we'll just sit back and take the point. And then in the overtime, Toronto really went for it. They got all 4 shots. Final shots 37-28 in favor of the Leafs. So again, for the Devils, they get a point. And it's a game where they don't lose in regulation, and you can sort of use this to build on. Hey, New Jersey's not going into the playoffs, but at least they can play spoiler, and tonight they did relatively well. And for Toronto, that's another win. That's another win, and this team just keeps on rolling, and we'll see just how far they can go up. And tomorrow night, we'll see where they are in the power rankings. For right now, I will say this. They are top 2 rows. They have definitely moved up. From where they were a few weeks ago, they've really moved up. But yeah, we'll see how things go for them tomorrow. All right, next up, Carolina in against the New York Rangers. Now, Carolina fans this morning were like, we can't win in New York. It's not going to happen. New York's going to beat us. And I thought, that's not the spirit. Come on, it's the Hurricanes. They can do this. And early on, my optimism was rewarded. Walmart from Teravainen at 5:15. The Canes had a power play after that. Then they got another power play. And I'm like, great. They can score 1 on the power play. They can put this away early, and Canes fans can relax and finally get a victory. And nope. Zibanejad would score on a power play for the Rangers from Kreider and D'Angelo at 16:31. So it's 1-1 after 1. But again, tie game. Second period, Kreider scores early from Zibanejad at 1 minute and 27 seconds. But the Canes got a power play. Didn't score on it. Panarin would then score from Hedel and Trouba at 7:29. Teams exchanged power plays after that. Again, Carolina didn't score on theirs. Zibanejad would score on the Rangers power play, again, from DeAngelo and Panarin at 13:14. So, decent enough game for DeAngelo with a couple of helpers on the power play. Zibanejad with a couple of goals. Things don't look great for Carolina. They're down 4-1. But before the end of the second period, Pesce from Walmart at 17:11. So it's 4-2 entering the third period. In the third period, early, Sebastian Aho scores from Niederreiter and Edmondson at 1:40. So they have a chance, but then the Rangers get a power play. Now, the Canes were way ahead on shots. And in that third period, they are way, way ahead on shots against the New York Rangers. But it didn't matter. They were down 4-3, and then Strome would score from Panarin and Trouba at 13:49 just to make sure this game stays out of reach. So Strome gets his second goal. I think that's 2 games in a row now where he's had a goal after going a while without one. The Canes got a power play late, and to stay with the theme, they didn't score on that one either. So Reimer saves 19 out of 24 in the loss. Lundqvist saves 39 out of 42 in the win, and Carolina fans were right. They can't win in New York. So I was hoping. I was kind of hoping. And not because I necessarily would, I don't like the Rangers or anything, but because, come on, you got a chance. Well, it's that underdog thing. It's a problem, the underdog thing. The underdog thing almost guarantees that I won't be happy with the result. There's a reason teams are underdogs in certain situations. Panarin, Zibanejad, and Kreider are your 3 stars. Power plays, Carolina goes 0 for 5. There's your loss right there. Rangers went 2 for 4. That compounds it. So power play, nothing. Penalty kill, not good enough either. And there's your loss. Shots were 15-9 in the first for Carolina. 13-10 Carolina in the second. 14-5 Carolina in the third. Final shots 42-24. That's not good enough. So we'll see what happens from here. But Carolina has to start worrying because they got Columbus over their shoulder. Columbus is getting close enough. So as much as Carolina should be able to hold on to that spot, Columbus looks like they want it. And tonight, Columbus did their best to get back into this in Washington. Now, they'd beaten Washington both of the previous meetings, so they had to feel pretty good about going into Washington playing the Capitals. First period, things are pretty evenly played. Not a whole lot to report other than it's an evenly played first, and they combined for 17 shots. 9... It says 9-4 now. It wasn't the total that it showed me, though, at the end of that first period. Let's see, 13, 24, let's say, no. I knew that was wrong. And that's the thing. I knew that was wrong. And I'm going to change that. Just speak amongst yourselves. Yeah. Columbus outshot them 9-8 in that first period. So, that's sort of a spoiler. But the score's at the top, so that's already a spoiler anyways. The second period, the Caps get a power play. They would not score on it. Then around the halfway mark, Lilia, who just got called up, scores from Nash and McInnes. McInnes was just called up today as well at 9:17. That's his first goal. They keep that puck. First NHL goal for the kid. Good news for Columbus. Stenlund then hit the post. Nearly made it 2-0. And then Wilson decides to drill Lilia. And Lilia was hurt. He would come back into the game, apparently, but he was hurt. And it was one of those hits that, again, it's legal, it's clean, it's fine. But, man, was that a rough hit. That was a rough hit, and Lilia went head first into the boards. That's one of those ones that just makes you just scared for that moment. Just you're nervous because the guy went head first into the boards. So, again, and I was watching replays of that too and hearing other announcers on other broadcasts. No call. I'm not sure what you'd call in that play. Can you call boarding there? Can you call cross-checking there? Because it's it's kind of from the side and then he went head first in. Like, again, I don't think it was necessarily a filthy, dirty hit. And I don't know if the fact Wilson throws it makes it more noteworthy. But it just is one of those ones I look at and I go, man, that could be very, very well legal, but man, should it be? So again, it's a debate we have regularly. Foligno then had a fight with Siegenthaler, by which I mean Siegenthaler kind of was ready to throw down, and Foligno let him know that he's a pretty tough player and kind of beat him up. I don't know how many punches Siegenthaler threw. I don't know that he threw a couple, maybe, but Foligno is a better fighter. So it's 1-0 for Columbus entering the third, early-ish anyways. Hagelin scores his first in 28 games from Panik at 6 minutes and 13 seconds, so that ties her up. Vrana then hit the post shortly thereafter as the Caps push for the lead. Columbus gets a power play. The Caps got their turn with a power play as well. Kuznetsov looked like he got Charlie Horst. So he was kind of a little hobble as he went off the ice. Charlie Horst is where somebody knees you right in the back of the leg. I don't know if kids still do it on the school grounds. I know there was a joke related to it where somebody'd ask you, hey, I don't remember what kind of horse is your favorite. My favorite's a Charlie horse, something like that. I don't remember. But they would kick you in the leg and your muscle would just, like your hamstring just says nope, and you're down. And that's, I gave you a Charlie horse, and it hurt like hell. So that's what it looked like happened with Kuznetsov there. Sometimes you can walk him off. Sometimes it tightens up after. Wilson then got kind of hurt shortly thereafter. He stayed in the game. He wasn't happy. He was chirping a lot from the bench to the officials. Not in a way that got him a misconduct, but he wasn't very happy with the hit that he took either. Samsonov then denied Werenski. And Gerby was battling in the last minute with Gudis. And then he kind of got into it with Wilson. I was like, yeah, you do you, Gerby. You go out there, you be 5'5", and you do you, Nathan Gerby. Nice to see you out there last minute, and John Tortorella trusting you. Overtime, Jones was playing with not playing with a broken stick. He broke his stick, so it was 3-on-2 for a little bit there. A little bit nerve-wracking, 3-on-2.5. But they'd clear it out. And then Gerby took a penalty. So I was like, oh, crap, I've already got Gerby on the board, now he took a penalty. That's too bad. And he didn't really have a choice. He had to hook the guy, but it's just too bad. Because, again, Tortorella is showing faith in him by putting him out there in overtime, and then he takes a penalty, which leads to the power play goal by Oshie. Backstrom and Ovechkin with the assists at 3:13. So the new guys for Columbus were prominent. The guys who were in there because of all the injuries were prominent. And they played a role in making sure this team gets a point tonight. So we'll see how Tortorella feels about it. I'll be interested to see what kind of ice time Gerby gets. He's making an argument for the idea that maybe he should be kept around, even if it's as a 13th forward, once people get healthy. So 2-1 is your final for Washington. They finally beat Columbus. Korpisalo saves 34 out of 36. He was fantastic. Samsonov saves 27 out of 28. He's excellent. Your 3 stars are Samsonov, Korpisalo, and Oshie. I can't argue with those at all. Power plays, Columbus goes 0 for 2. The Capitals go 1 for 5. That one, of course, being in overtime, 4-on-3. Shots were 9-8 for Columbus in the first, 13-8 for Washington in the second. Both teams had 11 shots in the third. In overtime, all 4 shots belonged to the Capitals. Final shots, 36-28 in favor of the Caps, who win the game. So there you go, and now I need to change boards. All right, next up, Pittsburgh. Yes, the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight reminded Nashville that they beat them in 2017, and they'll beat them again if they meet them again. Now, this is the way the score is supposed to go in Pittsburgh, so I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow because Pekka Rinne had his bad game tonight. So we'll see what they do tomorrow because Saros ended up having to play in this game when that wasn't the plan. And it starts early. Simone scores from Ricola at 2:17, which made me happy because Ricola, great name. Smith would then score from Ekholm at 4:30 to tie it up. And the shots were only 3-2 in favor of Nashville at the 11.5-minute mark. So, low chance game. That's good for Nashville. Keep them all under control. But the Penguins got a power play. Wouldn't score on it. However, Galchenyuk would score from Marino and Pettersson at 14:16. And then 34 seconds later, Teddy Bluger scores from Aston Reese and Tanev at 14:50. So, yeah, Rinne was out and Saros was in at 3-1. So, for Pittsburgh, after one period, it's kind of done. But they make sure that they put their stamp on it in the second period. Brian Rust scores from Gensel and Malkin at 4:38. So that makes it 4-1. And at this point, there are 8 games on. 7 games on at this stage. So I'm like, I can't watch everything. And this one's 4-1. And I know Nashville's not coming back against Pittsburgh. So there was that issue that I had. And then Ricola would score from Kahuna McCann at 18:04 just to make sure, yeah, there's no comeback happening here. So it's 5-1 after 2 periods. And again, and I'm going to mention this to Pittsburgh. Now listen, I understood when Florida got all the players that I liked. And it made me a bigger fan of Florida. And I understood when Anaheim started doing that too, and they picked up guys like Patrick Eaves, and they started picking up some guys, and then they let go of Perry, and Kessler's all of a sudden out for the season, trying to get me to be a fan. You've got guys that I really like right now in Pittsburgh, and guys like Rust, Bluger, Aston Reese I think is underrated, Marino, Patterson, and Ricola getting on the board a couple of times. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Just telling Pittsburgh, whoever's, this is Mike Sullivan's thing that he's like, all right, we're going to make Shannon like us. Knock it off. Third period, penalties left the Preds with 3 defensemen. So what happens is you have 2 defensemen get kind of tossed. You have 1 defenseman that's down, and so you're down to 3 defensemen. And Peter Laviolette wasn't impressed with that. And the funny thing is that the announcers are, as they're complaining that there's not enough defensemen, Nashville scored. And I thought that was kind of funny. Arvidsson scores from Yossi and Grimaldi at 9:18 and makes it 5-2. Now, what isn't funny is this. So when you're down to that few defensemen, and Yarncroke was playing on the blue line at points in that third period, you have to play these guys again tomorrow. So you don't want to be overextending Yossi or Ellis with the idea that tomorrow night now these guys are going to have to play a bunch of minutes again. So that's where the concern is, and I get it. You still have to finish out the game. The Predators then got a power play, and then they pulled the goalie. The app told me they pulled the goalie. I didn't actually go back over the game to find out because it's 5-2 with 30 seconds left, and there was some exciting action going on in Winnipeg at the time. So I'm like, did they really pull the goalie down by 3 with a minute left? That's some optimism. That is some severe optimism shown by the Nashville Predators. Jari saves 30 out of 32 in the win. Rene saved 3 out of 6, and then Saros saved 17 out of 19. We're going to continue to have this conversation about Rene versus Saros this year, aren't we? Ricola, Bluger, and Jari are your 3 stars again. I like all of those players. I see what Pittsburgh's doing. They are very slowly turning over their roster and having it that they're players that I cheer for. That I'm like, hey, I like these guys a lot. Crap, they all wear Pittsburgh jerseys. It's really, really insidious. And the Ducks have done it, and Panthers have done it, and now I'm watching Pittsburgh do it. Power plays, 0-for-1 for Pittsburgh, 0-for-2 for the Nashville Predators. Shots favored Nashville in this game, 10-7 in the first, 13-9 in the second. Both teams had 9 shots in the third. Final shots, 32-25 in favor of the Predators. So again, when they are outshot, they win. When they outshoot the other team, they lose. I don't know. That seems to be their pattern right now. Really, really weird. All right, moving along. St. Louis went in tonight and scored a bunch of goals, and so did Winnipeg. And there was this narrative came up at the start of the Toronto game, and I may have ranted at the TV, where they said, oh, we're in this odd space now where we're in those days in between Christmas and New Year's, and it's really, really easy for players to be distracted coming into a game like this. No, you've got fans paying hundreds of dollars for tickets. You've got players making millions of dollars a year. They shouldn't be easily distracted by the idea of where they want to be when the ball goes up in New York. When the ball drops, where are you going to be? Who cares? So if they're on the bench and all they're doing is talking where they're going to be when the balls drop, that's a problem. Anyhow, so after New Year's, the excuse is going to be this. It's the dog days of January. Then there's the All-Star break. So we're going into the All-Star break. Guys aren't focused because of that. Then we come out of the All-Star break. We're going to hear the excuse of, well, now players aren't playing very well because they're worried about the trade deadline. Oh, I don't think players are that fragile. But anyways, Justin Falk scores early in this one from Schwartz and Shen at 1 minute and 10 seconds. Schwartz and Shen passing the puck pretty well tonight. Shore then just missed a great chance. The Jets were up about 2-1 in shots. It looked like they were going to go into the period down 1-0. Go and into the period intermission down 1-0 until Bork scores from Appleton and Lowry at 19-14. So nice to see some depth scoring there. Second period, Pietrangelo scores from Shannon Schwartz at 5:30. Shortly thereafter, Connor scores to tie it from Beaulieu and Laine. So Laine on the board with an assist. Must have watched the previous morning and go, I have to get an assist. So that's at 9:37. The Blues get a power play and they score on it. Bozak scores from Schwartz and Perron at 16:08. The Jets got a power play of their own. They didn't score on that one. But in the third period, Falk is robbed by Hellebuck early on. The Jets got a power play shortly thereafter, and they would score on this one. Connor scores from Scheifele and Pionk at 3 minutes and 12 seconds. Beautiful pass by Scheifele, unintentional. But anyways, it was a great play where Connor puts in the rebound. Fantastic. Where Scheifele, if Connor hadn't been there, Scheifele would have been mad about how he'd blown it, but it's fine. Scheifele ends up getting the unintentional helper. Bozak, however, would score again from Thomas and Pietrangelo to restore the lead at 5 minutes and 10 seconds. Winnipeg was chasing the game all night. They never had a lead. Bennington then denied Laine. Falk and Scheifele then had matching minors. Wheeler would score from Ehlers and Laine at 18:46. So again, Laine with a couple of helpers tonight. He's making teams respect the fact he might pass the puck. And it's 4-4 going into overtime. So Winnipeg, who I didn't think had played particularly well at a lot of points of this game, they get a point out of it and they go to overtime. But in overtime, both teams just missed prime chances. Winnipeg wasn't able to get a shot on the net in overtime, and eventually that costs you. Perron would score at 3 minutes and 14 seconds. That puts the Blues over the top with a 5-4 win in overtime. Bennington saves 25 out of 29 in the win. Hellebuck saves 30 out of 35 in the loss. 3 stars are Bozak, Connor, and Schwartz. Well, so probably would have had Shannon there too. But anyways, 1 for 2 on the power play for St. Louis. 1 for 3 for Winnipeg. Shots were 12-5 Winnipeg in the first. 15-7 for St. Louis in the second. Both teams had 10 shots in the third. 5 shots in the overtime, all for St. Louis. Final shots 35-29 in favor of the Blues. This is going to be a fun little feud as these guys get to know each other better. This was the first of 4 meetings. And for St. Louis, they come out with the victory, which is important because Colorado didn't. Colorado at home against Minnesota. And Minnesota, I believe they said, has either 13 of the next 16 or 16 of the next 19 at home. It's something ridiculous. And Minnesota's very good at home, minus that loss at home against Winnipeg recently. You wipe that off the score sheet, their record at home is pretty fantastic. But even with that, it's pretty good. Now, Minnesota gets off to the best start you can imagine in Colorado. Soucy scores from Greenway and Fiala at 5:33. He continues to be a story for Minnesota. Then Stahl scores from Fiala and Parisi at 9 minutes and 22 seconds. So still, Fiala's putting up points over the last few weeks. He's looking pretty darn good right now. And it's 2-0. The Avs then get a power play at around the 15-minute mark. They don't score, but Cole scores from Belmar and Zadorov at 18:24. And then less than a minute later, it's Landeskog at 19:10. Going into the first intermission, it's tied at 2. So a game that had been 2-0 for Minnesota with 2 minutes left, now it's 2-2. So second period, the Avs challenged a wild goal as offside, and they were right. That puck was offside. Why? Because a Minnesota player was going into his own bench, and the door to get into the bench is inside the blue line. So the Minnesota Wild got Donskoy tonight. It was Donskoy that was doing that last year. No, that was San Jose, so Colorado. You guys know what I mean, right? Last year, Colorado, the offside goal, then the guy wasn't even in the play, and everybody lost their minds. Well, tonight, Colorado got that in their favor, so it all evens out. Anyways, it was a slow change. It was offside. The Wild then ended up getting a power play shortly thereafter, around middle of the period. Hunt would score on that from Dumba and Cunnin at 11:18. That restores their lead. But with less than a minute left in the second, Colorado does it again. This time it's McKinnon from Makar and Rantanen at 19 minutes and 12 seconds. So it's 3-3 entering the third. Third period, early on, it's Calvert from Belmar and Nichushkin at 1 minute and 33 seconds. Calvert, lots of goals going up for Matt Calvert right now. Kind of nice to see. So Colorado gets their first lead of the game. The Avs get a power play. They don't score on it. And then around the halfway mark, Zuccarello starts that comeback from Brodin and Parisi at 10:41, ties the game at 4. So are we going to go to overtime? No. Victor Rask, who was kind of on the hook for some poor play throughout this game, he makes up for it by getting a turnover, bringing it in, and putting it off the post and in the net behind Francouz at 11:58. That makes it 5-4. The Avs, unable to come back. They pull the goalie with 1:45 left. All that did was leave the net open for Suter to score from Eriksson Ek at 18 minutes and 48 seconds. So that made it 6-4. And Colorado, with what was kind of a sloppy game at home, they lose this one 6-4. The good news, though, is Makar's back, and so he puts up a point in his return. Dubnyk saved 40 out of 44. Francouz saved 27 out of 32. The 3 stars are Rask, Calvert, and Landeskog. Power plays, Minnesota goes 1 for 2. Colorado 0 for 3. The shots, 15-13 in favor of Colorado in the first, 14-11 Colorado in the second, 15-9 Colorado in the third for final shots of 44-33. So for Minnesota, they go in and steal one on the road against Colorado. They get themselves a little bit closer to a playoff spot. And there's a team in the West in the playoffs tonight. If those guys in that locker room aren't nervous about their standing right now, they really, really need to be. But we'll get to them. So, all right, moving along. The Islanders went in against Chicago tonight. All right, the Islanders tonight in against Chicago. What happened here? The Islanders have been struggling at points over the last month. And I think maintaining the kind of record that they've had over the first couple of months of the season, I think it's really difficult to do that. But tonight, this is a troubling result if you're a fan of Thomas Greiss especially. So, Johnston scores from Bailey and Nelson at 5 minutes and 50 seconds for the Islanders. So they go up 1-0 to start the game. Now, the Hawks are up 8-3 in shots at 7.5 minutes, but I thought, well, that's fine. The Islanders do tend to allow shots, and that's not a big deal. If they're being outshot and they're scoring, that's fine. However, Gilbert would score from Strome and Keith at 7:34. So that ties it up. And then Kubalik scores from Kane at 9:46. That's Kane's only point in the game, if you're wondering. And then I put up there, could Greiss have a short leash? Because Greiss, coming into tonight, has been struggling over the last couple of weeks. Varlamov has been the better goaltender. DeBrincat would score from Strome and Keith at 11 minutes and 56 seconds. So that's 2 helpers for Keith in the first period. It's 3-1, and guess what? Yep, Greiss gets pulled out of the game. Varlamov's going to go in. So second period, the Islanders get a power play. Leonard was really holding off the Islanders in that second period. The Islanders played really, really well in the second. Leonard was frustrating them pretty good. The Blackhawks got a power play. The Islanders got a power play after that. Neither team could put anything in on the power play, but this favors the Hawks. They're up 3-1 going into the third period, and Leonard looks like he is letting his former coach and GM know, you guys should have kept me. Guy at the other end of the ice, that's Varlamov, right? Greiss is out, right? Guess what? You let the good guy go. Taves would score at 50 seconds into the third period to really put this away. And then Highmore would score from Kampf at 3:03. I like Matthew Highmore. I'd like to see them keep him around. It's 5-1 for Chicago. They get a power play. During that power play, Cizikas would score shorthanded from Kuhnhackl and Pelech at 16:32, which made it 5-2. And the Islanders announcers seem to be kind of optimistic that maybe, and I'm thinking, oh, that's too bad. It is kind of too bad when you hear that kind of like maybe I'm thinking, you're not going to score 3 more against them in 3.5 minutes. That being said, 5-2 win for Chicago. They keep themselves in the race in the West. Greiss, 8 saves on 11 shots. Varlamov saves 17 out of 19, I should say. And Leonard saved 38 out of 40. So Leonard, message sent. Your 3 stars are Leonard, Strome, and DeBrincat. So DeBrincat gets a goal to get himself off the snide. That is the game winner. And we'll see if that can be the start of him putting up goals again. Power plays 0 for 2 for the Islanders, 0 for 4 for Chicago. Shots in that period, 14-13 Islanders in the first, 16-8 Islanders in the second. In the third, 10-9 in favor of the Islanders. Final shots, 40-30 in favor of the New York Islanders. So, yeah, the Islanders outshot them, but they didn't get the goaltending tonight that they normally do, and their scoring sputtered against their former goaltender, Robin Lehner. That being said, I need to change boards. The Battle of Alberta, not much of a battle. I didn't see much from Edmonton tonight. There's not a lot of notes on this because Calgary just went in and beat them. Calgary went in and asserted themselves as the best team in Alberta. And right now, I don't know that it's close. Not only that, but with this win, Calgary knocks Edmonton down in the standings. Edmonton needs to be very, very concerned. They've played more games than teams behind them, which are barely behind them in the standings. They are now looking at the very realistic possibility that by the end of this weekend, they're sitting on the outside of a playoff spot looking in. This is a team that was first not that long ago, and now that descent has happened. And I know for Oiler fans, this has to be really, really frustrating. It has to be. Where it looked like this year they were turning that corner, and now they're not. Buffalo's experiencing that on some level in the East, although with Buffalo, it just feels, I don't know, it feels different. And I know both of them lose tonight, but the Edmonton one feels worse because they've been first, I guess, whereas Buffalo, they were good. They've been good, but anyways, Mangiapane scored from Lindholm at 11 seconds. Yeah, Calgary didn't waste any time, and Mangiapane didn't waste any time either. I like Mangiapane a lot. I think he's a good player. I think there's some offensive upside there that clearly showed up tonight. The Flames were up 6-3 in shots 5 minutes into it. Tkachuk would score from Mangiapane at 11:39. That made it 2-0. And the Flames, again, looking pretty good. But at 14:26, McDavid does what he does. He tries to drag the Oilers back. Darnell Nurse with the pass, and McDavid with the goal, and, well, Nurse with the assist, McDavid with the goal. And so it's 2-1 after one. So with McDavid and Draisaitl, they can come back. Draisaitl had his share of chances tonight. Just Riddick was not letting him have it. Second period, Monahan would score from Gaudreau and Hanifin at 1 minute and 8 seconds. Calgary wanted this. They wanted to go in and just win this first battle of Alberta. I think they understand that they can directly affect the fate of Edmonton. Not only that, but in the bigger picture, they can get closer to Arizona. They can start targeting Arizona and Vegas. And by the end of tonight, they're 2 points closer to Vegas and Arizona. Arizona was not in action tonight. Now, Bear had a shot that was stopped at the 5-minute mark by Riddick. Pretty nice shot from the point. The Flames got a power play. The Oilers got their turn on a power play. But power plays weren't a big role in this. And this was not an overly nasty game. And you would expect that on some level. You got Lucic on one side and Cassian. And where's the nastiness? Anyways, Lindholm would score from Mangiapane and Brody at 16:54. So that's Mangiapane's third point of the game. That's not bad. Third period, first minute. So they scored 11 seconds in the first, 1:08 in the second, and at 57 seconds in the third. And not only that, but that goal is listed as a shorthanded goal by Backlund. So they make it 5-1 at 57 seconds. Frolik and Giordano with the assists. The Flames, not messing around. The Calgary Flames tonight, very impressive. Giordano ended up hitting a post. It's something that he's hit the most posts of any defenseman in the league, or he's tied for the most posts. And I thought, wait, they track that? That was all I thought was they track that? That's something that's actually tracked? Anyways, they only had 6 combined penalty minutes in this game. This was not an overly nasty game. We'll see if the Oilers show some more fight. I had expected some fights in the third. I expected something in that third period, and it just didn't happen. They've got the guys that can, go out there and play physical. Make them pay in your barn, and no. Riddick saves 28 out of 29. Played really, really well. Koskinen saves 20 out of 24. Then he's out. Smith saves 6 out of 7. 3 stars are Mangiapane, Lindholm, and Giordano. Power plays, Calgary 0 for 1. Oilers 0 for 2. Shots were 11-10 Calgary in the first, 14-10 Calgary in the second, 9-6 Oilers in the third. Final shots 31-29 in favor of the Calgary Flames. So, yeah, for the Flames, This was a fantastic victory. A kind of convincing, fantastic victory for the Flames. This game was never in doubt. Not even a little. All right, next up. Anaheim. This score is close. This game wasn't close. The score makes it look that it really wasn't close. So the shots are 2-2 at 7.5 minutes, and I thought it's pretty good. If you're Anaheim, that's pretty good. A low chance game should favor the Ducks. It doesn't stay low chance past the first period, but in that first period it definitely was. Gibson stopped Stastny late in that period, but it's scoreless after one. Second period, 4 minutes and 55 seconds. It's Marchessault that opens the scoring from Karlsson and Smith. That is his 13th goal of the year. He's on his way to easily 20-25 goals, probably 30. Somewhere in that region. It's 1-0 Vegas. But then Vegas would, on the penalty kill, they end up with a double minor that turns at 5-on-3. With the extended 5-on-3, Henrique scores from Silverberg and Fowler at 9 minutes. Which means it's still a power play. So, considering they're still on a power play, Fowler scores one that's deflected off Englund. I think it went off McNabb too. Or no, Karlsson and then Englund and then into the net. So Subban had no chance on that. Fowler from Steele and Shore at 10:23. And suddenly it's 2-1. They're not done. Comtois scores from Larson and Lundestrom at 10 minutes and 37 seconds. And here we go. It's 3-1 in favor of the Anaheim Ducks. I would like to give a bit of a shout out here to Sam Steele. Sam Steele is developing. He is doing well. He is picking up his game. And Lundestrom, if he can continue to put up helpers here and there, that Ducks attack may not be as anemic as it's looked through the first, 35 games? So, Getzlaf and Stone would mix it up later on, which is courageous. I believe it was Getzlaf that took the high stick that cut him. So, when you're willing to mix it up with somebody like Stone. Stone's not exactly a small guy either. And, when your face has already been busted open once that night. Last minute Vegas power play in the third period. As that power play bled over between period 2 and 3. Gibson stopped whatever Vegas threw at him on that power play. The Ducks are 12-1-2 coming into tonight when they're winning to start the third period. Spoiler alert, they're now 13-1-2 when they're leading going into the third. Vegas got a power play. Gibson denied Smith. Around the halfway mark, Shore scores from Rowney at 9:46. That makes it 4-1. And then Reeves charging in at a Duck who moves out of the way, and he runs over Nosek instead. They blew the play dead immediately. And that's something that has happened. Ever since the Calvert incident in Vancouver, referees blow the play dead immediately now if somebody looks like they're hurt. Doesn't matter who's got the puck. That is no longer a thing. So people are all upset about that rule. I don't know what directive came down from the NHL. We never officially heard it, but it's changed. Guy gets hurt now, the whistle blows. They don't care who's got the puck, just blow the whistle. Late in the game, Schmidt scores from Stone at 18:08. So they pull the goalie with 1 minute and 10 seconds left. They would score, Vegas. It's Schmidt again from Stone and Pacioretty at 19:54. With 6 seconds left, they call a timeout, but it's just basically, okay, guys, we have to win the face-off. You got that? If we don't win the face-off, nothing matters. I'm not writing anything on the board. We need to win the face-off. We need to get in there. We need to score. It's going to take less than 6 seconds. So, got to win the face-off, right? They lost the face-off. So, that didn't happen. Your final score is 4-3 for Anaheim. The score does flatter Vegas a little bit because, honestly, Anaheim had this game won with 2 minutes left. That third goal wasn't going to happen in 6 seconds. Subban saved 14 out of 18. I know that's ugly. I'm not going to put this on Subban. Like I said, there's a double deflection on this one. Gibson, 26 saves on 29 shots. Fowler, Shore, and Henrique are your 3 stars. Gibson might have got one of the 3 stars, but those 2 goals late took him out of the running. Power plays, 0 for 2 for Vegas, 2 for 3 for Anaheim, a team whose power play sucks. Not tonight, it didn't. Shots were 8-4 Vegas in the first, 9 apiece in the second, and then in the third, 12-5 for Vegas. A lot of those shots were late in that period, especially with the 6-on-5, and they did get the goal out of it. Final shots, 29-18 in favor of Vegas. Low chance game for the most part. It did favor Anaheim. They do get the win. They just have to not do this again because Vegas will usually kill them in this situation. For Vegas, it's a frustrating result because Arizona's idle tonight, so that could have been major for them. And they did lose a chance to make up extra ground on the Oilers, and now the Flames are the team that's right behind them. So things continue to be pretty tight in the Pacific Division. And for Anaheim, maybe they haven't given up, although I don't see them getting into the playoffs. I just don't see it happening. I don't think that can happen. Finally, last but not least, the LA Kings in against the San Jose Sharks. LA, this one ends up going to overtime as well. And I knew it would because this is the last game of the night. And I have to say, looking at the running time of this, I guess I needed a few days off from doing the whole hockey thing. I must have been getting burned out on some level because this is longer than the other ones. I didn't think I was going to have enough notes tonight either. The Kings get a power play in this game, and they were up 7-0 in shots at the 7.5-minute mark. Kings came out ready to win, even though they were on the road. The shots evened up, though, as the period moved along. So the Sharks did wake up, and they did get going. And then in the second, it looked like the Sharks, they're not messing around. First, it's Erik Karlsson from Marleau and Thornton. At 6:16, Marleau finally gets a point. And then it happens. Joe Thornton gets a goal. And it's not a deflection off of a defenseman. It's not that he got credit for a goal somebody else scored. He scored it. Schimmick and Marleau with the assists at 11:39. And all I could think was, okay, Thornton gets a goal and an assist. Marleau gets 2 helpers. Schimmick gets an assist in his first game back. It's miracle time for San Jose, and it's LA. So LA on the road, not known as a great team. But you're up 2-0 going into the third period. What could possibly go wrong? A guy without a vowel in his last name is what went wrong. Ferk. Ferk scores from Prohorkin and Carter at 1 minute and 30 seconds. Martin Ferk. Detroit fans are like, he's still playing? Yep. And he got a goal. And it wasn't a bad one either. It's actually a pretty nice goal. The Sharks, it felt like we're hanging on a bit. Kind of guilty of hanging on in this game. The Kings pressured at 10.5 minutes. They pressured a lot, really. Campbell then stopped Sorensen. Sorensen had a nice play at the other end. He stopped him. Dell looked pretty good at protecting the lead, but he can only do so much. Aaron Dell had a good game tonight, but again, he can only do so much. So, with the goalie pulled, with Campbell out, they score. And who is it? It's Ferk. That Ferk got a goal, his second of the game. That's what I always used to call him. From Carter and Prohorkin at 18:36. There's a lot of ways you can use the name Ferk, and people can go, what did he just say? And you didn't say it, but it sounds like you did. It's a really fun name. It's a shame he never has played for a team that's one of my favorites, because might have his name on the back of a jersey as soon as he's played for them. Or as I called him when he was drafted, I'd like to buy a vowel. That's, and I don't think his nameplate's done yet. I don't think that's right. But you know what? He doesn't need a vowel to get goals. He got 2 goals tonight, and it's a tie game, and it's going to overtime. So in overtime, Campbell stopped Couture. Burns hit the post, and it was one of those ones that the Kings announcers were like, okay, the league hasn't called in yet, so that's good. Because they thought it might be in. They were like, that looked like it might be in. But Burns didn't react like it was in, so yeah, okay, that just hit the post. But boy, that was a good shot, and if that had gone in, but it didn't. And then Carter scores from Iafallo at 1 minute and 31 seconds. Can somebody tell me why Jeff Carter's not a star in this game? He had a goal and 2 assists. Ferk is your number 1 star, of course, because anytime you have a chance to name him in your top 3 stars, he's there. Thornton and Marleau are stars 2 and 3. I can't argue that either. But Carter gets an honorary mention from me. He's my honorary star of the night. Campbell saves 22 out of 24. Dell saves 34 out of 37. Dell played really well. So this, if anything, this solidifies the argument that Dell should be the starter at this stage for the San Jose Sharks. Shots, favored LA, 10-8 in the first. Both teams had 11 shots in the second. 15-4 in the third period in favor of LA. And in overtime, both teams got 1 shot. Both teams had 1 power play. They did not score on. And final shots, 37-24 in favor of the Kings. So the Kings, with that win, they make things even worse for San Jose. San Jose's at the bottom of the West. So, playoff picture. How did things change tonight? Capitals would play Philadelphia. The Islanders would play Pittsburgh. So that'll be a first-round matchup again. Boston would play Carolina. Toronto would play Montreal. And that's where people in Toronto and Montreal go, okay, everybody stop. Season's over right now. Make this series happen. Just outside the playoffs, 1 point behind Montreal is Florida. 5 points behind Carolina is the Columbus Blue Jackets. 1 point behind Montreal is Buffalo. 2 points behind Montreal is the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then 6 points behind Carolina sit the New York Rangers. So it's maybe not as set as it looked for the East. We'll see. Now on the Western side of things, St. Louis would play Edmonton. Edmonton's the number 2 wild card now. Colorado would play Winnipeg. Arizona would play Dallas, and Vegas would play Calgary. That would be a very rough series if that happened. These teams don't like each other at all. Edmonton is 1 point ahead of Minnesota. 2 points ahead of Nashville and Vancouver, 6 points ahead of Chicago, 8 points ahead of Anaheim and LA, and 9 points ahead of San Jose. They're not double digits ahead of anybody in the West now. And for Edmonton, this is concerning because Minnesota, Nashville, and Vancouver, I'm pretty sure all 3 of them have played less games than the Edmonton Oilers. So this is a very concerning time right now if you're an Oilers fan. And the power rankings are likely to be kind of unkind as a result. But we'll see if they can turn this around. It's a very interesting time right now in the West. And it looks like maybe Winnipeg and Calgary are the playoff teams in the West out of Canada. And then in the East, it may very well be Toronto and Montreal. But again, it's still early. Very, very early. And let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Amazing few days off. Clearly I'm a little energized for tonight's games. This was a lot of fun to watch. I'm looking forward to the 12 games tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.